Katie and Christopher will be married for 5 years before they give birth to a little girl named Charlotte. And Charlotte in this story was a happy young lady. She used to always run around, play, and really connected with her parents and stuff. And they moved into this house and finally got their life settled, and everything they expected and wanted and needed was happening. So this life was going perfectly fine. They had a perfect neighborhood. The neighbors was fun, and the neighborhood was quiet. You know, you had a little police patrol at night and stuff. So, you know, they were really in a safe place until November the 14th, where the break-ins would start happening. On November the 14th, they would all get settled in for the night and they would go to sleep. And throughout the course of the night, they would hear sirens come down to a house that's like right near their house. And they'll get up, and the husband, you know, he wear his shorts and his tank top, and the wife would get up and they hear noises, and they go down there and they notice that one of the police is at one of the neighbors' houses that's 2 houses down. During the investigation and them being nosy, they go downstairs, look out the door, and they see the investigation going on. They see the body coming out of the house, and now they know someone in the neighborhood had died. They know people in the house, but they don't sure who died yet. And all of a sudden, the police come and say, "Hey, did you guys hear any type of noises or anything throughout the course of the night?" And they say, "No, we didn't hear anything, actually, until you guys pulled up with your sirens and stuff. I mean, it's been a quiet night. This has always been a quiet neighborhood. It's never really been." And the police also say, "Yeah, well, you know, I've been patrolling this neighborhood for over 10 years, and I've really never heard of a break-in as well." And basically, they would say that, share a couple more words, and then they part ways. After the police has said his few words in exchange, and then he left and he part ways after asking them questions, and they went back in the house and they went to sleep. The next day, they'll find out that 2 people in the house actually got killed. It was a husband and wife that lived there, and they both were killed. Someone came in the house in the middle of the night and shot him point blank range. And then the good 2 days later, they be asleep again, and all of a sudden they would hear sirens and stuff around 5 o'clock in the morning come barreling down this street, and they hear fire trucks and stuff. And all of a sudden, another neighbor's house was broken into. And this round, that house was actually caught on fire. They burnt the house down, and one of the persons in there had passed away, you know, smoke ventilation, and the other 2 had made it out. So Katie and them is like, okay, now this neighborhood is starting to get a little, you know, scary. And Christopher is agreeing. He's like, you know, I don't know if this is a perfect neighborhood for us to be in. So 2 days later, they go to sleep at night about 5:30 a.m. They would hear the sirens coming to a house close to them, which is their neighbor's house. And now they like, something weird is going on in this block. And then the police will come, and the crime scene tape will go up. And this round, somebody else was shot point blank range. It was one of the neighbors and very good friend of theirs. And Christopher was like, you know what? This is getting too close to home. So they will pack up, and then they will move to another whole area. Once moving to this area and getting settled in, Katie would go down to the local school and enroll Charlotte in school. And now Charlotte's going to school in this new neighborhood. She's making new friends, and days will go past. And, you know, the husband, Christopher's getting back to work. And Katie, she's doing her thing. She's going back to work. And Charlotte, she's doing her thing in school. And everything's running smooth until the following 3 weeks. 3 weeks later, Charlotte will go to school, and she's hearing around her friends, and her friends talking about something. You heard about a house that got robbed, and somebody came in there and shot 2 people point blank range, and all this other, you know, crazy jazz. And she's like, oh my God, that reminds me of my old neighborhood. And she got to tell them stories about her old neighborhood to her friends, and friends like, ooh, yeah, you know, that kind of sounds like similar to what happened. Maybe you should say something to police. And she was like, no, my parents just said we should probably stay out of it. And then all of a sudden they would go home, and they getting settled in a new house, and they go to sleep that night. And that night it'll start all over. They would hear ambulance come barreling down the street. They hear fire trucks, police officers, and everything come speeding down the road, and it'll go to the house across from them. Somebody broke in the house across from them, went upstairs, shot both people in bed, point blank range, but didn't take anything. Left all their assets, left all their money and stuff. So now the police is like, okay, that's kind of crazy because this neighborhood never had that type of drama or anything like that. And then a couple days later, you would see another house breaking and the police coming around 5 o'clock in the morning. And it started all over again. So that time it hit like 4 houses. But this one really struck close because the 5th house they hit, in the middle of the night, somebody came in, went up the steps, pointed the gun point blank range right at Katie, and fired one single shot right into the middle of her head. Katie died instantly. David will wake up, see his wife dead. Her daughter comes running in the room. She's crying. And there's no sign of forced entry. There's no sign of break-in. They just know whoever this is, they thinking, the police is thinking, this person's getting really professional. And, you know, we got to find this person fast because now he's hitting another neighborhood. Meanwhile, they get up dressed for the funeral and stuff, and they get, you know, their wife buried, and, you know, Charlotte is now looking at her mom, and she's just, you know, she's devastated, and they get through the funeral and they get past this. So now it's just Christopher and Charlotte left. Meanwhile, after the funeral service and stuff was over, you know, Charlotte nor did Christopher could withstand being in that house at this point. So they both decided to pack up and go to a local hotel, stay there for a couple of days so they could figure things out, and maybe David can get an apartment and, you know, just something for them too. And, you know, they still moaning over the whole death of the mother thing and somebody coming in their house and shooting point blank range. And then the father, you know, waking up, well, Christopher waking up and looking at, you know, it's just a lot to process for them. So at this point, you know, they went on, he got a hotel, they sold the home, and they found the buyer and they sold the home, and they went out and they got themselves a nice apartment. And all of a sudden, days later, it'll start all over again. Somebody in the apartment downstairs on the bottom floor, they'll hear police and stuff 5 o'clock in the morning coming to the building. And then all of a sudden, you know, someone was shot, point blank range. And then all of a sudden, the following night, you would hear the police going to another building, and they were going there, and someone was shot, point blank range. And then this would go on to happen numerous times until it happened to the unit next door to them. And the father said, this is getting crazy. We have to move. So when they moved into this new house, they actually moved next door to a police officer. And he was a state police officer. He was well trained. You know, he had a K9, and, you know, he was one of those fitted type guys where, you know, somebody come in that house, you got trouble. And later that night, someone tried their hand. The officer would report that he was asleep, and he would hear a glass break on the backside of his house. And when he comes in there, the suspect comes up. He points the gun, and right as he points the gun, the officer was already prepared. He lunged forward, knocked the gun out of the suspect's hand, punched the suspect right in the face. The suspect hits the ground. He puts the suspect in cuffs, gets him up, and then he'll walk him to the front, and then he'll call 911 and say, hey, this is Officer such and give his badge number. And right there, when when the police came, this big investigation came about all the past murders and everything, and all the locations the murders happened at and stuff, and they would find out that this has been occurring for a long, long time, and we've been waiting to catch this suspect. But at the same time, Charlotte hears all this, and she gets up and she runs downstairs, and she's looking for her dad, and her dad daddy must have already got up and heard that too and ran next door. So she go out there to look for her dad, and when she goes out there, she will see her dad standing there, but he's in cuffs. The reason he's in cuffs because they had when the officer put those cuffs on him and got him up, he smacked him. And then he snapped to it, and he panicked, and he looked around, and he's like, what's going on? What am I doing in this house? And he was sound asleep because he did all this while sleepwalking every night. So let's rewind time. That means when they moved into that first neighborhood, Christopher would get up and he'll middle of the night, go down to the other house, walk in there, shoot both people in the head, point blank range, and leave, and then go back home and get in bed, and then wake up when the police and hearing the sirens come riding down the street to go investigate a murder that he just committed in his sleep. And then they will get back up, and he don't even know he left, and go down there and you know, be shocked by it. So the killer that they were moving away from, they couldn't get away from because it was him. So that also means the night that he thought somebody came up the steps and went in the room and shot his wife point blank range in the head, no. That means he rolled over in his sleep, reached in the drawer, grabbed his pistol, rolled back over, pointed it at her, shot her, put the gun back, and then woke up because the daughter came running in the room. Charlotte came running in the room yelling, and it woke him up out of his trance, and he looked down and realized his wife was dead and said, I can't believe I slept through this. And the entire time, Christopher, was the one committing all these murders. When they moved into the apartment and then somebody died downstairs, that means him in his sleep went downstairs. And the police and the court and stuff did not believe this. So they did an experiment. They put him in a cell, loaded the gun with blanks, and then left it there. And eventually, they just waited. 2 days ago passed, nothing happens. But that night, something would happen. He'd get up in the middle of the night, take the gun, and start firing at the guards. But, of course, it was blanks. They went in there, they shook him and woke him up. And that's why he's not on the top crime murder list or anything, is because they justified me. He was sleepwalking. It's a disorder. So it's not countable, you know. So he didn't go to jail for it. They moved him far out in this island where he just lives by himself. And the only people he gets to see are doctors, lawyers, attorneys, or anything that's important like that goes and pays his bills for him. And his daughter still comes and see him all the time. And his daughter, as he was sleeping at night and stuff, killing people in the past, and, you know, not knowing he did it, not intentionally killing people in the past. His daughter, on the other hand, she got older, she graduated college, she got a nursing degree, and then she went on and got her doctor's degree, and she became a very big time doctor. So the past was about murders, and now she's all about saving lives. This story is about Stacy. Goes home every night. She's a regular type person, worked a lot and barely got much rest, and, you know, she also suffered from this thing called sleep apnea. And sleep apnea is like, you know, a person's airway is just messed up and they don't really get the adequate sleep, and, you know, they're narcoleptic at that. Sometimes they have a tendency to pass out or, you know, just fall asleep at random moments and stuff. But she, in her dream, would go to sleep every single night, and she had this dream that some man is sleeping in her living room and using her utilities, using her stuff and stuff. And every time she wake up, the parts of her dream from the night before will actually come true. She'd go downstairs one day and she opened her refrigerator up, and she'll realize, like, that is not how she left the tomatoes. And it was just small stuff like that. The next day she'll go to sleep, and in her dream she had a dream the man was in the bathroom and shower water running and shaving and stuff. And the next day she'll go to the bathroom and realize, like, her little utensils and stuff in her medicine cabinet is all out of place. And she's like, you know, maybe it's me, you know, I got sleep apnea and stuff, and then I got all these health issues. Maybe it's because, you know, I'm sleepwalking and I'm doing all this. Even though she knew that wasn't true, she convinced herself that it's true. But things took a turn to the worse after like the third or fourth day of her having this experience, because on the third or fourth day, you know, things started getting a lot more weird. Like, she would unplug the TV before she go upstairs and go to sleep. But then when she get upstairs to go to sleep, she'll think she hear noise in her dream and someone's watching the TV and stuff. And then she'd get back up the next day and she'd go downstairs and get ready for work and stuff. And as she walk past, she'd look down and say, I remember unplugging that TV. And then all of a sudden the TV is plugged back in. And then the day 4, she'd go to work and stuff, and she'll come home and she's tired. And this round, she's sitting downstairs, and in her dream, she falls asleep on the couch. In her dream, she feels like some strange, tall, dark-figured man is like standing over her and like putting his hand in her face. And you know, and then after a while, she'd sleep for a while, then she'd wake up, and then she wake up pouring in sweat. She look around, nothing's going on. She go upstairs, go in her room, and then she'll lay back down. And when she go back to sleep, it was like everything just started over again. Around, she'd go downstairs and she'll realize like the back door is kind of crocked open, but she was thinking in her head like, you know, I was probably sleepwalking again, and maybe I left the back door open. But you know, again, she convincing herself everything to believe that this is not true. So the next day they would go to this little get together, and she's over there and she's talking to her brothers and stuff. And she just funnily, jokingly brought this up, said, you know, I just have some feeling that some man is like, I have this dream every night, some man is in my house and he walks around and he's watching TV. It's almost like he's living there while I'm sleeping at night. And the brothers would laugh it off and stuff, say, you know, hi, yeah. But you know, that if you think you're hearing stuff, then maybe you really are. You know, you want me to come check on you sometimes or something? She's like, no, I'm fine. And they kind of blew it off right there. But later on that day, she would go in the house and she realized that her door is still propped open again. And she's like, oh, I must have did it. But then she started looking around. There's some juice missing out the refrigerator. And next round, she go in the bathroom and there's hair shavings on the sink. And she's like, okay, now this seems weird. Am I really dreaming? Am I really doing this? Is it because Brad probably came past the other day or anything like that? She's like, this when the story gets weird. The story goes from a dream to terrifying. Stacy would go home one night. In this round, as she's walking in her house, she gets stopped by a neighbor, and then the neighbor is gonna say, Stacy, hey, do you have a new gardener or something? She's like, no. She's like, oh, because some man was walking around your house earlier and he was taking photos and measuring stuff and all this stuff. And I thought you might have had like a gardener or maybe you might do some yard work or something. And she said, no, not at all. And now she'll tell her brother about this. So her brother goes on full alert and he's like, you know, maybe you're not dreaming. I mean, I know you have sleep issues and stuff, but maybe it's not a dream. Maybe something really is going on. Maybe it's a sign. He's like, but you know, maybe I ought to come check on you sometimes and stuff. And she said, all right. And at that night, she went to sleep and she had this really bad dream. I mean, this guy was walking around her house. He was terrorizing. He was throwing stuff and he was kind of trashing the place. And in her dream, she's having all this. But on the other note, Stacy's brother, Tim's at the house and he's having a dream at night. In his dream, he would see some crazed man messing with his sister and stuff. But long story short, the dream got so bad that he got up and he said, you know what? I have to go check on Stacy. So he jumps in his car. He goes driving down the street. He goes over to Stacy's property, and what he sees shocks him. Right as he's driving, he sees some guy going across the lawn, and then he has a phone call, and it's Stacy calling him, and she says, this round, I'm woke, and I hear something. I think there's someone living in my house. I think it's someone downstairs right now. And he said, I had a dream that there's something going on. He said, I'm on my way to your house. Like, okay, get here quick. And she's being quiet. So then as the brother pulls up and Tim arrives, he goes around the backside of the bushes. He don't want to be all loud, so he goes around the backside and he's peeking through the bushes and he's looking over at her house and he's like, stay on the phone with me. There's definitely someone in your house. Everything in her heart sunk because now what she thought she's been dreaming of, she's terrified because it's real. And she couldn't help but notice it. And so she creeps over to the door. She's being quiet and she opens the door and she would look. And she looked and she said, I could see him. And he said, hide. And she would close the door and she would slowly slide the dresser in front of it. When she slides the dresser in front of the room door, she'll go over into the corner and she'll sit down and she'll ball up in the corner. But what she don't know is that the guy heard her slide the dresser and he would grab a kitchen knife. He would go running up the steps and now she can hear him and he goes over to the door banging. The brother sees it. He says, stay on the phone. He said, don't get off the phone. I'm coming. And he goes running across the field. Now he's jetting there because he says, it looked like he's coming up the steps to you, and now she's terrified because she know he's coming up the steps, and he's scared, and she's scared, and he's trying to hurry up and get in there, so he jumps across the yard, he goes through the back door, he like props it open, and he comes rushing in down there, and he wham, and he hits the guy, and then the guy goes flying backwards, then he kicked the guy, and all she can hear in her room is all this tussling going on there, so she know her brother's in there, and she know this fight is happening, and they just go back and forth, blow to blow, and before you know it, the brother gets the best of this guy and sits him down, calls the police, and then before you know it, there's a bunch of blue lights and red lights, and they all coming down the street, and she comes out of the room, and she's terrified, and she sits in the back of the car, and as the police is dragging this man out of the house, she just looks out the window with this stuck face like, oh my God, this man has been living in my house. And when the police with the investigating asked this guy, what was he doing in his house? He said, I thought the house was vacant. And that's why you should never sleep with the lights off. Because he thought the house was vacant. And then when he found out that she always just comes in every day and she goes in and go sleep, he's like, well, it's too late. I already kind of got comfortable being here at nighttime. So he just stood. Emily was a very good, uplifting spirit, happy type of girl. She went to school, always maintained good grades, we got along with her teachers, and she never had a problem with dreams or anything until probably about a week after her teacher would take off, and she got sick, and it was a substitute teacher that came in to take the slack of her, and this substitute teacher would come and he'd teach the class, and everything goes normal every day in class. There's nothing wrong with the substitute teacher or nothing, but for some reason when Emily go home, she started having these dreams at night. And in her dreams, the first time she went to sleep and she pictured her as some woman arguing with some guy, and then she'd go to sleep another night and she'll picture some guy like choking her and like yelling at her, like putting her hands on her and stuff. And then another night she'll go to sleep and maybe she had a dream about the guy, he was about to stab her, and basically these dreams just got badder and badder. So eventually she started talking to like a therapist, and her parents kind of got concerned because these dreams wouldn't stop, and before you know it, she's in a whole mental breakdown about her dreams, and she keeps saying like some guy is hurting her and stuff. So now they start thinking paranormal. They call a priest over to try to help her, but the priest would come over and he would kind of say a couple of prayers with her, you know, put his hand on her head, hit her with holy water and stuff, but she still kept having the dreams. As a matter of fact, they got even worse. One time that he stabbed her to death and she actually died, and then all of a sudden she have another dream that she was standing on the edge of a cliff and this guy would just pull his gun out and shoot her and she'd fall down to her death. And it started getting so bad that her friends in school, when she go to school and stuff, would start picking on her and stuff. But this substitute teacher, he would start hearing about these dreams, and he gets so involved with her, and he's like, so what happened next in this dream? And here, let me try to pray with you, let me try to get you to forget these dreams. And he got really close to her, to the point where when she had these dreams at night, she would go to his classroom specifically just to tell him about her dreams and the updates and stuff. And every time he would tell her, he almost act like he feels the dream, you know. She felt like she could relate to him, like he just like really felt like he understood the dream. And she vented to him, and he always wanted to know more. And then before you knew it, he started coming past the house and checking on her and talking to the parents, and you know, just trying to really get more information, you know, to try to say he's there to help. You know, he was a very supportive teacher. A couple days later, after her still having these dreams and stuff, her friends in school would really start bullying her. One time she's outside and she's on the phone waiting for a ride, and all of a sudden you see 3 girls come up behind her and they picking on her about her dream, like, oh, little girl having dreams and blah blah blah, and they're saying all this bad stuff and everything. So after a while, they started hitting social media, and before you know it, this story went viral. Now a lot of people hear it, but it also, when it goes viral, it went across the desk of a detective. And Detective Hank would read through these papers, and he reading through some papers and stuff and looking at old cases and stuff, because for him, even though the priest came to the house and these people, you know, this person came to the house and this teacher came to the house and this family member and everybody was trying to help her, he was on another agenda. He actually went to the house this time and said, you know what? I would like to hear this story. And she would tell him two separate stories. First story, she would tell him all about her getting in an argument with some guy and he's choking her and then he stabs her to death. And then another story he's telling her about her getting in a one-on-one and she has to try to fight back with some guy and he took her to a cliff, pointed a gun point blank range at her, and pulled the trigger. So the officer's all thinking he's scrounging up and stuff, he's writing down what she's saying and stuff, and he seems like he's really invested. And he said, okay, thank you for your time, we'll be in touch. And then he'll leave. When he left the place, he would go back to his office, he'd jump on his computer, and he'd start doing some homework, making phone calls, and now he got other people involved, and they in the filing cabinet, and they pulling down files and everything. And they started looking through case files, and then eventually this one detective would say, I think this is it right here, I found it. And then the detective would get up, Hank will walk over to it, he'll look at the thing and say, thank you, yep, this is it. This is all I needed. And then he went back to the kid and started asking the kid more questions, and the kid would give him the answers and stuff. And he said, okay, I think I got this all figured out. At which point you'll see a bunch of police officers. You'll see a bunch of detectives and FBI and everything. You'll see them all putting suits on and stuff because they was headed to talk to one more person. And this person they wanted to talk to was at the elementary school because they needed to talk to the substitute teacher. So they all get in, they come out, they go around the school with their guns and stuff drawn, and they would creep around the backside. You have some at the window, stuff. At this point, they evacuated the school building, had all the staff and stuff come out and all the students and stuff, and then they would go down the hallway and they're going to this classroom, and he broke. He whipped out a pistol, tried his hand on shooting the officer. One of the officers would shoot him back in his right arm, and the gun would drop. He'll go over there, hit him to the ground, put him in cuffs, and walk him out the school. Once the officers had him in cuffs, then the officers would go up there and start talking to him, and they say, so this happened, and they take some fingerprints from him, and then they'll go ahead and go back, and then they'll get the little girls, and they ask them, her to describe the type of woman she was, and she would describe her picture down to a T of how she looked in these dreams for each woman she played. And then he said, okay. He drawed up the sketches, sent it to a sketch artist, got the sketches made, and before you know it, he closed a very big case. Because 10 years prior, the substitute teacher brutally murdered his wife. He went up there, he strangled her, he killed her. Stabbed her. Weeks prior to her having these dreams, the substitute teacher, Jeffrey, was the teacher's, Katie's, husband, posing as a substitute teacher, coming to that school to work, when the entire time he was just trying to make it not noticeable that he actually, in fact, did take his wife on this camping trip, and it wasn't a real cliff or nothing. It was a hill, and he took a gun point blank range and he shot her after a very big argument. And then he knew he had to cover it up, so he went to the school and he played this substitute teacher, and he got all invested inside of Emily's story and stuff, and he wanted to know about it. He going past the house and stuff. All of that was because he was shocked that this was the case from his ex. This was the case from his ex-ex. This is the case from, if you follow me, this goes back. So he got so invested because he couldn't believe he was hearing a story that only he knew. But if anybody in there can drop a comment to tell me exactly what it is that you guys think about this girl's dream being equivalent to this story, please, I would really appreciate it. But if you guys are into these type of stories, go ahead and smash the notification bell. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, so you don't miss any of my 3 to 4 weekly uploads. That's gonna do it, guys. See y'all.